Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're from here, or from in general. Today we have this Seiko sea urchin, and it doesn't seem to be running very well. And we're going to try to clean it and service it and see if we can't get it running better. So you see it does run, but we'll do a test on it and see what kind of numbers we can get from it. I don't have one of them desk watch accuracy things, Weishi or Weishi. So you can see it's got very low amplitude, although it's not fully wound. But the time, it does keep fairly good time. First, we're going to take off the bracelet. Throughout this video, there's going to be a lot of background noise from the clothes dryer or our dishwasher. I do this work in our kitchen, and it's close to where our laundry is too, so there's a lot of extra noise that happens. You can see that the bezel will not turn either, so it's stuck. I don't know if it's dirty or what. We'll have to figure that out. We're going to try to get the back off with this rubber ball. But it is stuck enough to where I cannot get it this way, so we're going to have to put it in something else to get a better grip on it. And this does the trick. To start, we're going to take the rotor off. And then we're going to take the stem out so we can release the movement from the watch case. Now I'm going to put the stem back in so that I can line the hands up to make them easier to take off the movement. And we'll cover the dial with plastic so that we don't mess it up. and use these hand removers. And we'll put the hands in a little dial box with the dial once we get that off. And these Seiko dials, they're just pressed into the black plastic movement ring. So you just pry them up carefully. There's no screws holding them down. And put that in the dial box also. And I'd like to thank Mike with MyRetroWatches. He has a guide on this movement that I used quite a bit. He has a channel here on YouTube also. He says it's one of the oldest watch channels on YouTube, called MyRetroWatches. Go check him out. So now we gently pry up this little C-clip there. Make sure it doesn't fly away. And then the day ring just pops right up. And now we take these, I believe there's 4 screws that hold down this plate. I did notice working on this watch that while it is very simple to work on, these screws, for whatever reason, I could not keep them in the slot. They tend to slip out very easily. Now the date ring can come off. And this plate underneath that keeps the date ring, or quick change for the date ring. These little plastic gears go in one way, so you have to make sure you put them back in the right order. You can't put them through the watch cleaning solutions either. Cannon pinion. I don't have a cannon pinion remover tool, so I just use my steel tweezers. Now I'll take this little plate off that covers 2 of the pinion locations, just so we can clean underneath it. And now we can take this plastic movement ring off. And let's take the balance off for safekeeping here. You can see I'm trying to not slip and scratch the movement up, so might have to try a different method. Now this screw has 3 slots on it, so that shows you that it's reverse threaded. we can take the ratchet wheel off. Now I'll take this plate that has all the automatic works on it, and is also the plate that covers a lot of the pinions. I'll take that off. I'm trying a different method to try to keep the screwdriver in the slots better. If you hold it with your tweezers, sometimes that'll keep it from sliding out. When you first start looking into these Seiko movements, they seem like they're complicated, but once you start digging into them, they're actually pretty simple, and they're not bad to work on. And I didn't mention before, but this movement is a 7S36C. And surprisingly, I think, I haven't tried it myself, but so supposedly you can take a new NH36 movement and directly replace it, or replace the 7S36C with it, but I didn't see any reason to do that, especially as I'm learning how to work on these watches, so that would kind of defeat the purpose. Although the NH36 does have a feature that this one, or two features that this one doesn't, that I know of, in that you can wind it from the stem, and also it has hacking, which I don't think this one has hacking, and you can't wind it from the stem. Which, if you have a lot of watches like I do, then you don't wear them every day, so it'd be nice to be able to wind them from the stem. One of the other nice features about these Seiko movements is they have like a spring-loaded release thing for the stem. It's a little bit nicer than having to unscrew things to get the stem loose, and just pops right out. Now the automatic works has another little C-clip on the underside here that you pop out, and you can easily lose it, so it's covering it with plastic. You can just see it there. Now we can remove the magic paw lever. Old grease and oils are getting it kind of stuck on there. Now I'm looking at the underside, or the jewels, to make sure they're in good condition. Which, besides being a little bit dirty, they look like they're in pretty good shape. Now we'll get this barrel apart to take a look at the mainspring. And these Seiko, at least for this model anyways, or caliber, is not like the Swiss ones where you can just pop the lid off. You have to do it a certain way. And perhaps it's because they don't really expect them to be serviced. But most people who service watches want to service the mainspring also. And sometimes it's necessary. So I'd covered it with plastic to try to prevent any damage to the teeth on the barrel. I did manage to get the lid off. As you can see, it's pretty grimy in there. But that may just be the nature of the beast with these mainspring barrels. I had a hair on there, I was getting that off. You have pets in the house, you tend to get cat hair or dog hair everywhere. Now it's easier to, according to Mike with MyRetroWatches, it's easier to just gently walk the spring out before you try to take the barrel arbor out. Just take the barrel arbor off once you get the spring out. So that's what I'm going to do, is just gently take it out first and then take the barrel arbor out. And we have that apart, and looking at the teeth on the barrel, it looks like I did manage to damage them. And after some research, you have to buy the whole barrel complete with the spring and everything, so that's what I ended up having to do, is buy a whole new barrel with the mainspring. So you can also see that the mainspring is a little bit out of shape, so it's probably needing to be replaced anyways. And here's all the parts. I'm going to read you Isaiah chapter 53, and while I read this, think about who this sounds like. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living, for the transgression of my people was he stricken. And he made his grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. The book of Isaiah was written perhaps 700 years before Jesus was crucified. This chapter of Isaiah seems to describe Jesus very well in not only what happened to him, but also why it all happened to him. He was despised and rejected by those he came to save, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. We esteemed him not. He has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. This is not the only place in Isaiah that is a fulfilled prophecy about Jesus. There are many in the book of Isaiah, but also throughout the whole Old Testament there can be 300 to 400, depending on how you interpret the prophecies. If there are so many fulfilled prophecies about Jesus, it would lend credibility to what Jesus said and did in his life. He made the claim that he was the Son of God. If he is the Son of God, it behooves us to look at what he said and do it. Jesus said in the Gospel of John chapter 3, verse 3, Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. What does it mean to be born again? It means to come to a knowledge of your sins, repent of all sin, and believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Believe that he died for your sins on the center cross of Calvary, was placed in the tomb, and that 3 days later he rose from the dead, ascended into heaven, and sits at the right hand of God the Father. Believe him today and pass from death into life. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, everything's out from being cleaned and dried. Now we'll start reassembling the automatic works, we're going to take the jewels off the top side of this bridge and clean and oil them. And I'll show you how to do the first one, and it took me so long I won't show you how to do the second one, just for demonstration purposes. It was very, very fiddly to get it back in once I once I oiled it, so not exactly an easy process with these. I put a little bit of Mobius 9010 on that jewel, and then the goal is to flip it over and place it back in the setting there. Kind of stuck to my tweezers. And I messed this up so many times that I finally had to just focus on getting the setting back in and oil the jewels a different way, because I messed it up so many times that I had to do the oiling a different way. The other thing you're worried about when we're trying to get these springs back in is losing them. So they're very small. You see, anytime I move that spring, it moves that stone also. So that would mess the oil up, and I'd have to start all over again. So I eventually gave up worrying about the oil on the underside and just focused on getting the spring back in. I would assume the more you do these, the better practiced you would be at it, but this one really gave me trouble. You can see how frustrating it can be, and sometimes you just have to walk away for a little while and take a break. That's why the ankle block settings are so much easier to work with, but they're not all the same. Finally, I was able to get it underneath the edges there. That was a struggle. So the way I decided to oil them, is I'll place some oil on the underside, some 90-10 on the underside of the jewels. Then I'll take an old oiler that I sharpen to a sharp point. And if you stick it through the jewel hole there, it will, by capillary action, bring the oil down or on the inside there. So that's what I attempted to do instead. So here's that old oiler that I have. I'm going to stick it through there. And I think it did work. It's kind of hard to see, but I think there is oil in there. Now we'll start reassembling the automatic works. We'll put a little bit of oil on this, or no, this is grease. A little bit of Mobius DX or Molykote DX there. That helps to hold the paw levers in place while you get the rest through. Now this little plate has a certain shape to it that fits through the paw lever and then through the hole underneath. So you have to turn it until it goes down all the way. It'll sit a little bit closer to the plate once you get it all the way through. There, it's down all the way now. Now you can flip it over, pinching it with the tweezers to make sure that it stays in place. Now you gotta carefully put that little C-clip back in place without losing it. It just slides right over the pinion there. It's actually not as difficult as I thought it would be. Now we can start with the movement. I had put the balance back on for cleaning and safekeeping, so we gotta take that off first. We'll start by putting the stem back in slightly so that we can put the rest of the parts onto the stem and keep them in place. Now we can get the sliding clutch on there also. And we'll finish up with some more moly coat. And we'll put a little bit of D5 around that post before we put this yoke back in. We'll hold it down with some pegwood and get that spring back in place. I believe this is more moly coat that we put on this part. I think that's called the setting lever. And then you put some more moly coat on top of the surface right here, as there's other metal parts that go right over top of that. Now we secure that with a screw. I'm adding a bit of Molycoat DX to those divots there where it slides back and forth. And now we can test it. And it looks like it's working. Now I'll do a little bit of cleanup. We'll get that secured down with the other screw. I believe this was D5 on that jewel, or 9010, one or the other. And then with this bridge over top of that. looks like my screwdriver has a little bit of magnetism in it. I'll have to take care of that. Now I can put in the escape wheel. I believe this was D5 on the barrel jewel also. And this is D5 on the barrel arbor also. And this is a new old stock barrel, but as I find out here, it is the wrong one. I thought I ordered the right one, but it is not. So I have to go back to eBay and see if I can find the correct one. Or maybe it was Jules Borel. I don't remember for sure. So here's the correct one. And there's the part number should you need it. Again, this is D5 on the barrel arbor, top and bottom. And that one fits much better. Now we can put the click spring in. And I don't remember what that wheel is called. Probably 90-10 on that jewel. Center seconds hand wheel. Now I can put on the bridge plate I assembled earlier. You gotta move the click spring out of the way. And everything just fell right into place. I didn't have to mess with it very much at all. Or D5. This method does help with the slipping of the screwdriver. It still does slip some, but it's a little bit less. Oops. A little bit too much pressure on it. Have to reset. Alright, now just double checking that everything spins freely. It looks good. Now I can put on the ratchet wheel. It has a flat side on one part of it, so you have to align the wheel correctly before it'll go into place. Now we can screw that down, but having to make sure that you move the paw lever out of the way so you don't pinch it. Now, looking at the pallet fork up close, you can see how the tiniest amount of oil is 94.15 that I put on the pallet fork. It's really hard to do on the microscope, I only have a digital microscope. It's not a binocular, so my depth perception isn't there. Now we can put on the bridge for the pallet fork, and you have to be very careful to make sure that the pivots are in the correct spots for these. So the pallet fork pivots are probably one of the most delicate pivots. You want to be absolutely sure you have it in the pivots before you press it down or screw it down. And we can add some wine to the watch and see if it'll run. And there it goes. Now I didn't get this watch to run with a very high amplitude, which Seikos are known to run with a lower amplitude anyways, but I couldn't even get it to run with the typical 240 degrees. But I think there's something wrong with the hairspring that I wasn't able to figure out, but I did get it running pretty well, as I'll show you before we finish up. Now I'll show you how I do the how to do the balanced jewels for cleaning and oiling. It's very similar to the ones that were on the bridge plate, but this one went much easier for some reason. Maybe because it's bigger. Now, I picked up this little jewel tool here that is actually used for art projects and picking up little teeny stones and things, but it works really well for this. After running those through some isopropyl alcohol and drying them and making sure they're clean, we can put them back in. Now I'm putting some Mobius 9010 on the flat side of this jewel, and then we'll flip it over and reinstall it. Some people make tools that are supposed to help with these shock settings. I don't know what they're called, and if you mess around with it long enough, you'll eventually get it back in. You just have to be careful not to break anything. Looking at it on these macro shots, it's easy to see what's going on, but even with a microscope, it's still difficult to tell exactly what you're doing. So it's a very careful and finicky process. But that one went on much quicker than the bridge one. And I flip it over and I can do the other side. I won't do the whole thing. I'll just show it taking it off. And that you just press down with a strong pair of tweezers. Now we're adding some 9010 to the rest of the top side. And then we'll put this little cover plate back on. And I think I forgot this one here. So I'm adding a little bit of 9010 to that one. That may have been the pallet fork. It might not have needed any oil anyways. So now we put the movement ring back on, and we can start reassembling the dial side.
Adding some D5 to this post. We can get that wheel reinstalled. Now these little plastic wheels. I realized I need to put the large black plastic piece in first. Because that little white one goes over top of it. Now we'll put the hour wheel on. I think this is called the date jumper spring. It's more of a plate, so jumper spring plate. And with that in place, I'm slowly moving the time for that black plastic wheel. It has a kind of an arm that needs to go over top of that plate, so I'm just rotating it until it's in place. As you can see there, it's sliding over top of it. Now these little plastic cogs here, that they have to be in a certain way, so you have to be sure you install them the correct way. Now I can put the date ring back in. And if you're careful, you can get that date jumper spring into place without knocking that whole plate out of place. You have to be careful with it though. Now we can put the main cover plate back on with the date spring, or the day spring. Now I'm just checking functionality for that date. Then we'll put the day wheel back on. This is actually pretty easy. A lot of watches like this, you have to reach through with a pair of tweezers and pull that spring back. But this one, you just press down and rotate it a little bit, and it'll snap into place. So this C-clip here, you have to make sure you put the rounded side down when you reinstall it. Otherwise, next time somebody needs to take it apart, they'll have a hard time if that rounded spot isn't down. So now we can reinstall the dial. And again, this one's just press fit, so you just line it up correctly and press it down. And now I'm just using the other end of that jewel tool to get any dust off the dial that I see. Now I'm going to reinstall the hands, and I'm testing this press here and see how it goes all the way down to the dial. So that means I need to use a different size because I only want it to go down to the top of the hour wheel. So that helps to reinstall the hands correctly. So you can see it goes down over the minute wheel, but not the hour wheel. So that's perfect size. So now I'm rolling through the time until it switches dates. So then I can reinstall the hands exactly at midnight. So when it just switches over the date, I can put the hour hand on at midnight. Gently press it down and it's nice and even. Now we put the minute hand on at midnight. After finding the correct size of press. Once that's lined up how I like it, we'll press that down. Now I'll reinstall the seconds hand. Autofocus. Alright, now for the watch case. As we saw before, the whole bezel is stuck. You can see there's some grime on there, but we're going to try to get that bezel off. I was just trying to use the watch back removal tool with some plastic to get it off, and I couldn't get enough power into it, so I had to put it in this holder again, and finally got it off. And it's almost like there was some glue or something. Maybe the bezel adhesive got onto everything else and made it so it wouldn't turn. Never seen an O-ring in that position before, but this is the first dive watch I've worked on also. Better be careful with that O-ring because I was not able to find another one. I'm sure it's a generic O-ring, so maybe you could just replace it with a generic. So you can see the glue or adhesive or whatever it is in there. Crystal looks fine though. Take this bezel spring or click out. It doesn't look terrible though. So now I put the back on the watch and the watch stem back in just to protect it from water. I didn't want water getting on the inside. And we'll put them in the ultrasonic for a quick wash. As you can see, there's grime starting to come off already. So that the adhesive for the bezel came off. So I'll have to source some sort of adhesive to go back on there. Not a big deal. Doesn't look like any water got in the inside, so that's good. Looks a lot better. And now we're going to try to reassemble this case. So that's that O-ring that I took off before. We'll oil that up with some lithium grease. Get that put back in the bezel. That back in place. We can work on pressing that back on the case itself. First we'll put that spring or click spring maybe back in place. And then the bezel over top of that. Now this watch press is pretty nice, but the wheel on top almost could be bigger for this kind of thing. So I could not get enough grip on that wheel to be able to press this bezel back in place. So I switched it out with an aluminum one. It doesn't screw onto the post very well, but it's a bit harder. And then, as I still couldn't get enough grip on it, I went and got an oven mitt that was silicone, and that gave me enough grip to finally press that down. And now it spins. You can hear it clicking there. I found these 3M circular double-sided adhesives on eBay, although it did not quite fit this watch, so I had to cut them down both in width and in length to make it work. But I think it works just fine. It just wasn't quite designed for this model watch. With those on, I can take the top side of the adhesive strip off and get the bezel back installed, or the call it a chapter ring, or what you exactly call that. Now we can get the movement back into the case. I just need to press it down a little bit. Should pop right in there. And then we have this little, I don't remember what that wheel is called, but we put that, and then we have to make sure that we get the paw levers situated on each side of it, and not pinch them down underneath it. Because that's what takes the action of the rotor and transfers it to the mainspring. And now we can put the rotor back on. Mike with MyRetroWatches was saying that you have to rotate or have the rotor towards the crown. And I'm not sure what that would do with this one, but I just screwed it back on and it seems to be working fine. And I can see it working both ways, so it seems to be working. Now I'll replace the back gasket with a new one. We'll oil that up. And before we put the back on, I'm going to give it a final adjustment. And that's about where I got it after some adjusting, which is pretty decent for me anyways. Amplitude could be higher, but from my understanding, these watch or phone watch accuracy meters don't judge the amplitude as well as they could. Now we'll use the rubber ball to press it down a little bit more, and then I'm going to use the piece of plastic and the watch back tool to really give it a good tighten down. Now I'll put the bracelet back on. And there you have it. I want to thank you all for watching, and may God bless you and keep you. And I hope you enjoyed it, and come back and watch another one.